everyone, it's Coach Charlie here, and I'm about to give you a video for some prenatal options for inside the studio. As long as you don't have any medical contraindications that your GP advises against exercise, it is perfectly safe and really beneficial to stay active throughout your pregnancy. It's proven to make labour and postpartum recovery easier and reduce health risks as well. So it's really important to stay active. I'm going to go through this video, talk through some of those typical symptoms you might face through your first, second and third trimester, and give you useful, helpful options that you can follow when you're in the studio and adaptations you can make based on how you're feeling. It's important to remember that everyone's pregnancy is different. So take one day or 1 week at a time and work with your coach, with your family, with your team to adapt as you go, to make sure that exercise continues to work for you. Remember not to suffer in silence. Ask questions and for options if anything doesn't feel right throughout your pregnancy journey. Myself, the other coaches in the team here are more than happy to help you have a really effective and ultimately safe pregnancy journey whilst remaining active. So during your first trimester, so that first third of your pregnancy, one of the most common symptoms are things like nausea and excessive fatigue. Your body's doing an amazing job during that first trimester growing your baby at its fastest rate that it will grow through your whole pregnancy. So it's going to be taking a toll on how you are feeling physically. It's important to rest more and adapt your training plan around this. You might find you're not able to train as often as you were used to doing. The nausea and the vomiting might get in the way of that as well. So my advice to you is to adapt and take advantage of the times that you are feeling good to get yourself into the studio, but also be kind to yourself and take that rest, stay at home, put your feet up, do whatever you need to do to get yourself feeling better and using those energy stores in the right way. There's no pressure, so remember when you're here, your goal is now to be fit and healthy and safe, and it isn't about getting those PBs anymore, it's about the PB of bringing your baby into this world. Other tips and things for making your training safer and more comfortable. Remember to wear cool clothes because you're going to be generally feeling a little bit hotter and at a risk of overheating, so cool clothing. Plenty of water, stay really hydrated. This is from first trimester all the way through to the finish. Stay cool, stay hydrated, and keep yourself comfortable during exercise. So as you get later into your pregnancy, into that second and third trimester, you're going to have physical changes like your bump growing, the effects of hormones like relaxin getting involved and wreaking havoc and destabilizing some of our key joints around the body. And you might have other pregnancy symptoms raise their head that mean you have to adapt your training in different ways. First trimester, apart from the nausea and sickness, you may be not feeling those physical effects too much. So a lot of the exercises that we do in the studio are still safe and appropriate for you to do as normal, but if in doubt, ask your coach. However, as we get later into pregnancy, we want to talk through those options, make sure you're clear on them, to make sure you're training safely. So up next in this video, I'm going to talk you through the 3 key areas of the studio, the treadmills, the rowers, and of course the weight floor, talking you through the sensible and appropriate options for you to take in the later stages of pregnancy. So starting with the treadmills. Everybody's approach and how their body changes will be individual to them, but the general rule of thumb with the cardiovascular elements is to be managing that heart rate. Your resting heart rate is going to be naturally higher throughout your pregnancy, and your baby's heart rate tends to be around 1.5 to 2 times faster than yours. So it's important that we're not spiking that heart rate too much anymore during our training. So general advice for you, use those heart rate monitors to your advantage, and let's be training at most into that green zone, particularly as we move into that second trimester. So use that to monitor your intensity, but also remember to listen to your body. If something doesn't feel right, regardless of what the heart rate monitor says, talk to one of the coaches, adjust your intensity, ease off and take some rest and recovery. You will find that you need more recovery perhaps than you used to, so make those adjustments and keep it safe. You might want to swap from jogging and running as that becomes less comfortable to become a power walker and using that incline as resistance. And moreover, if you have issues like pelvic girdle pain or instability around the pelvis and those sort of key joints around the hips, you might then want to swap to low impact options like the bike or the Strider. So we'll have all those options ready for you, and you take those as you feel appropriate. Reminder again to stay cool and stay hydrated, particularly during these cardiovascular elements where you are generating more body heat. When it comes to the rower, again, some of you might find rowing more comfortable for longer than others, but there is going to be a point where that bump is going to get in the way. So the general adaptation for rowing is, rather than your knees being on the inside of your arms, you can take those knees out in more of a butterfly position to the outside of your elbows, and it's just going to give you and your bump a little bit more room to manoeuvre on the rowing machine. But again, you could use the Strider as another option if it's starting to feel uncomfortable, particularly as you get bigger in that third trimester. Moving on to the weight floor. This is where you are going to find you need the most options and adaptations. So make sure you're asking your coach to help you with those options, make suggestions, and perhaps help you adjust the bench height or pass you any weights in case you need it as you move around. My general advice is to take your time. Try not to rush, and really make sure you are thinking through the setup of your exercise and simple things like picking up and putting down your weights. You've got this hormone called relaxin coursing around your body throughout pregnancy that prepares you for later stages and ultimately labour. That hormone causes your ligaments to relax and muscle tissue to smooth out and relax, and can cause then instability across your joints. So the risks are that you could get injuries that are long-term potentially, or you're pulling a muscle or causing yourself general discomfort. So take your time when you're going to select your weights, when you're going to pick them up. Think about bracing your core, engaging your pelvic floor, and also preparing and making that mind-muscle connection whenever you start an exercise so you can perform it safely. I'm going to show you a set of options now for a lot of the common exercises that will come up, things that you can use as your little black book of exercises you can rely on and refer back to. But if in doubt, ask your coach and they'll be prepared with that option as well. So let's start with lower body exercises first. Your most fundamental ones are things like your squats and your deadlifts, and for the most part, those two movements should be safe for you to participate in throughout your pregnancy. We just want to make suitable options and adaptations. So for example, when we're seeing a goblet squat, we might want to move from that position from the weight being in front of our chest to having those arms extended and that dumbbell out in front of us. That just gives you enough room to move around that bump for that squat position. Also, you might want to use your squats as an option when there are other less stable exercises that might affect or become uncomfortable for you later in pregnancy. For example, lunging, both forward and reverse lunges and lateral lunges might not be comfortable for everybody if you're suffering from instability around those hips. So always opt for a two-legged exercise like those squats as an option for you to fall back on. You can also use the TRX to support some of your body weight through that squat position here as well. When it comes to that deadlift, it's working that posterior chain. Again, really important. As you're shifting your center of gravity, you're holding weight in different places you would normally. These are good exercises to sort of strengthen the chain of muscles down the back of your body. So keep those deadlifts up, but you might want to adjust the weight options so you're feeling more comfortable with a lower weight. And you can use that deadlift instead of something like a hip bridge where you want to avoid lying on the floor. So go for a deadlift instead to activate those glutes. You might still feel comfortable doing a power movement like a hip hinge swing, but again, you can drop the intensity by opting for that deadlift instead. When it comes to power lower body moves, like the squat jumps, the lunge jumps, again, swap those out for your squat to calf raise, your low impact version. It's going to benefit you in the long run, and you're not going to put unnecessary pressure on your joints or your pelvic floor. So let's move on to some upper body dumbbell exercises. Your classic one is your bench press. The recommendation after that first trimester, when you have that bump coning, as they say, sort of moving outwards, you want to adjust so you're not laying flat on your back anymore. So ask your coach or find out how to raise the bench so you've got an inclined position for your bench press. You could also, again, opt to use the TRX for the TRX push-ups, still getting that activation through the pectorals, but taking off some of the body weight, but also challenging your stability if that feels good for you as well. So add the incline to the bench for your bench pressing rather than lying flat on your back from that second trimester onwards. Another upper body move that we see often in the studio are those push-ups. We often show lots of options for push-ups based on different levels and abilities, but for you, as you move through your pregnancy, that bump's going to get in the way. So for push-ups, you might want to take an alternative of a TRX push-up, so you're completely off the floor. You might want to go for a kneeling push-up, but as you get bigger throughout your pregnancy, that's going to be less possible and limit your range of motion. So your best option would be take a kneeling push-up position with your hands on the bench. That gives you that clearance for your bump to move and for you to still get that range of motion and that pressing through the arms. If that push-up no longer feels comfortable, again, just flag down your coach and they'll show you an option that might target a different muscle group or something you feel more comfortable doing. Your other fundamental upper body exercise, working that posterior muscle groups again, is something like your row. So you might find you still feel comfortable to do a hip hinge low row position, but if that becomes too much pressure of gravity of that bump sort of pulling downwards towards the floor, you can take a supported option by going for your kneeling on the bench single arm dumbbell row, or again opting for a TRX bodyweight supported row instead. It might feel better to go for two-handed movements here rather than single-sided where you're challenging your core position more. So just make it an adaptable option for you that feels safe and in control. And finally, moving on to the core. It's a really fundamental muscle group that we're targeting here in the Orange 60 or Strength 50 sessions. Working on the core, we're often seeing lots of different exercises that you could work with. I'll give you 5 pregnancy suitable core options that you can have in your repertoire ready to go if you see an exercise that you can no longer do or feel uncomfortable doing. General rule of thumb, after that second trimester and that bump is starting to present itself, you want to avoid supine or prone position, so either where you're lying on your back or lying on your front, putting your weight through the front of your body, just to protect that bump and your baby. So we want to take options that keep your bump safe, but also keep strengthening your core. Having a strong core is still really important. It's going to protect your posture and also help with that recovery as we get that abdominal separation later in pregnancy. The stronger our core is, the quicker it will recover after pregnancy. So we'll show you 5 different exercises that you can use and fall back on when the normal exercise is not appropriate for you anymore. So first exercise I can show you is standing oblique crunches. So these are really good because you're completely clear with your bump from any equipment, but it's still working those obliques down the side of the body. So hands go behind your ears, elbows out nice and wide, and then you're lifting one leg at a time, taking that knee to the outside, and you're looking to reach knee to elbow. So we're still working that core, but we're keeping that bump area completely free. It's a good option when you see things like bicycle crunch or any sort of crunch variation. You can go for this standing option instead. Next up, we have a half kneeling wood chopper. Again, really good for targeting the glutes, but getting that transverse rotational movement. That'll be important for you pre and postnatal. So in that half kneeling position, taking that dumbbell like you're fastening a seatbelt. Up next, classic one, you've got your bird dog. So this is really good for core stabilisation, for the hips, through the shoulders. So from all fours, you're lifting opposite arm, opposite leg away to full extension and then back down. Up next, you've got plank variation. So if this is still feeling good for you, you can hold that high plank position, bracing that core and those glutes, and you can also take it down to a kneeling position, a little bit more comfortable and a bit less pressure on those abdominals. Really good one here for the obliques and the outside of the hips. This is your sort of side plank with hip dip.
So you should be feeling it down the inside and the outside of the hips, squeezing those glutes up. Next one, really nice for a bit of relief if you're suffering from some tightness through your back. It's that cat camel. So on all fours, pressing up, squeezing the belly button towards the roof of the studio, and then sending it the opposite direction, belly button towards the floor, using your head to move with you. This one's really nice if you've got tightness across your hips or got that pelvic girdle pain. So taking that staggered stance from all fours, extending one leg out to the side and going for your hip rocks forward and back. Changing sides after 5 to 10 reps.
Hopefully you have found this guide helpful along your pregnancy journey. It's important to remember to always consult with your GP or your midwife if anything doesn't feel right, or if they do suggest to you that it's time to stop exercising, take their advice and then come and inform our coaching team or member of staff at the front desk. To wrap things up, remember to get involved as much as you can, enjoy the process, but always reach out and talk to us, and we're going to be on that journey with you, helping you make those options and help keep you safe during your pregnancy. Remember, we've got loads of different class types. If Orange 60 stops being right for you, you might want to opt for something like Strength 50, where the general heart rate is lower, but we're focused on good form and quality movement on the weight floor. So keep making those adjustments, and we together will maximise your pregnancy journey.